Okay, welcome to this A-Level Religious Studies, Section 16, Anthology Analysis of A.L. Basham. His anthology piece. Let's read it and analyze it. This is what it says. The Buddha will cover his glory with earthly dust and appear to his children as a historical Buddha to encourage and instruct them. Thus, the Buddha shows the perfection of skills and means. That is to say, in knowing the best means to take, to lead each individual to the light according to the circumstances in which he is placed. Gradually, the son grows more and more familiar with the father and loses his former fear of him, but still he does not know that he is his father's child. So men, even though pious and virtuous, and earnestly carrying out the Buddha's will, do not know that they are already in heaven. Their lives are still to some extent earthbound, and though the Buddha offers them all his wealth of bliss, long habit keeps them from enjoying it. Only when the father is near death does he reveal himself to his son. This seems at first to weaken the analogy, for heavenly Buddhas do not die. But in fact, the conclusion of the parable is quite appropriate. For man has fulfilled his tasks and carried out his stewardship, that is to say, when he has reached the highest stage of self-development, he finds that the heavenly Buddha has ceased to exist for him, that nothing truly is real, but the great emptiness, which is the peace of nirvana. Okay, so what's going on here? So, picking up the end of the last section, beginning of this section, what's the big deal with dust, earthly dust? So, the Buddha will cover his glory with earthly dust. So here Basham's continuing his paraphrase, his summarization of this early Mahayana teaching from the Lotus Sutra, one of the 7 parables of it. In particular, this is from the Sadharma Pundaraka Sutra. The glory and dust, this is the interesting contrast here, glory and dust. Here's a reference to the idea of the pre-existence of the Buddha in a heavenly realm of glory before he comes to this world of dust. There are, for Buddhists of the Mahayana stripe, many heavenly realms or Deva realms. The word Deva finds its way, is reported in the Pali Canon Sutras. Now, Theravada downplay that. They metaphorize that. But Mahayana take that seriously. The Buddha is said to have resided in the Tushita or Tushta realm or of contentment. And the 4th of the 6 Deva heavenly realms of the Kama, so that's a bliss realm, Dhatu or realm, the Kama Dhatu, located between the Yama and Deva realm. So that's all in the Pali Canon, which, is it a metaphor, is it real? Well, it depends if you ask Theravada or Mahayana. The other realm is the Manaratai Deva realm. So these different realms. The Tushta is said to be reachable through sadhana or advanced meditative attainments. So you could pray to him if you do this. The Buddha resided before being reborn earth as Gautama Buddha, the historical Buddha. Now, all of that gives Mahayana cause to believe in heavenly realms, but not Theravada. Theravada cosmology does begin with the 6 realms, then subdivide them into 31 planes of existence, many of whom are the sort of superior unconscious realms, as it were, in which rebirth takes place. The order of the planes is found in various discourses of the Gautama Buddha in the Sutta Pitaka, and highly developed in the Abhidhamma of the Tipitaka, as the main idea in Theravada Buddhism. The nature of dust. But the nature of glory, not so much in Theravada, much more in Mahayana. So the Buddhist teaching in the sutras, dust is a common Eastern idea, a common reference. Think of a world where there's lots of dust. To be dusty-eyed was to be not enlightened, in other words. Very simple metaphor, well understood in those days. So are there one or are there many, many Buddhas? So we have this phrase, and appear to his children as a historical Buddha to encourage and instruct them. So a historical Buddha, as in one of many. What's going on here? Well, in Mahayana, there are many Buddhas. So they talk about Shakyamuni Buddha as the historical Buddha, and he's typically white. He has the white banner, the white coloring in Mahayana to differentiate him from other celestial Buddhas. And here we have the development of the idea of the heavenly realm, and in turn, Trikaya doctrine hasn't properly emerged, but it's getting there. The Buddha Lord, who is the historical Buddha, is only one who is related to his role of teaching. White equals teaching Buddha. Other colors equal other Buddhas, with past and future Buddhas coming to exist. And we get to the key idea, upaya. Upaya is being referred to here. Upaya, the perfection of skill in means. According to Mahayana, one of the key attributes of the Bodhisattva, one of the perfections, paramitas of the higher realm, the seventh, not one of the first six, but the seventh of the advanced attributes of the Bodhisattva. The top three often today thought of as what the heavenly Bodhisattvas or most advanced Bodhisattvas can achieve. Not there in the Lotus Sutra, but there in these later texts. Is, although there an idea in the Lotus Sutra, skill in means, upaya kusala. In a way, it's there before that. Upya kusala is there to an extent, or a skillful action, but it's an evolution of the Theravada idea of skillful action. And in Theravada, skillful action is just not doing bad karma, whereas that's a negative thing. In Mahayana, it's a positive thing where you can manipulate the world to suit your purposes, whether that hopefully is for benefit of others, love of others, karuna for others. So this refers to the present Buddhist teaching, to Mahayana teaching, to a way to be understood by audience with different levels of comprehension. You can say one thing to one audience and something entirely different to somebody else. It is and becomes a theme in the Lotus Sutra, the second chapter. The Buddha explains, gives his teaching, this great religious experience they're all having in the second century of the Buddha. He illustrates this in the third chapter with the parable of the burning house, the great parable of Upaya. In some sources, just about anything is allowable under Upaya, including breaking the precepts. The father lies to his children in the burning house parable. Zen history is full of accounts of monks realizing enlightenment after being struck at or shouted by a teacher. So anything's allowable under upaya. So we continue. What is the reason for the father's secretive behavior? The father's secretive behavior. Gradually, the son grows more and more familiar with the father and loses his former fear of him. So Basham here is recounting, narrating the polemics of Mahayana through recounting the Lotus Sutra story, wherein Mahayana is its self-identity is as the paternal, the compassionate, the wise, the one with perfected wisdom, and Theravada are the idiots, those who are the sons who lack wisdom. How does the ignorance of the son point towards the Mahayana belief in a key word, Ekhyana? Ekhyana. So here's this key word, but he still doesn't know that he is his father's child. In the Lotus Sutra, Basham explains and suggests that Theravada still don't know that they don't have the full truth. They're not the father, the one with authority, as Cole points out. Basham explains that the child is Theravada and the father is Mahayana. Theravada might be an illusion, So this might be an allusion to the idea of ekiyana, the kind of inclusivist view that there's only one vehicle, one true way to be right, to be saved, to have salvation, soteriology. So as we continue this text, as it says here, so men, even though pious and virtuous, earnestly carrying out the Buddha's will, do not even know that they are already in heaven. Ekiyana, ekiyana. How does Basham dispassionately record the what in effect is vitriolic polemical narrative? Well, there's this really interesting phrase going on in a second. So there's this kind of damned with faint praise. Basham narrates the Lotus Sutras, sort of patronizing feel. It's critique of Theravada's doctrinal errors, seeking individual liberty, not developing compassion, discovering Buddha nature, becoming a Tathagarbha, one who's discovered that which really is what Sponberg talks about as Nibbana and samsara are coterminous. He's quoting Nagarjuna. So they don't know they're already in heaven. They don't know those Theravada, despite their piety and virtuousness, their threefold way that they meditate, they gain wisdom, and they are ethical, they are virtuous, sila. They do not know they're already in heaven. Nibbana and samsara are coterminous, Nagarjuna taught. So this is the Lotus Sutra damning them with faint praise. Now, is Basham's does his academic neutrality slip here? There's an interesting thing going on. Only when his father's near death does he reveal it to his son. Is this a reference to Western ideas from Hick and Ward? Eschatological verification. I mean, it's near death. You could verify God exists when you're dead, or God could verify his own existence. These are the arguments of Hick and Ward. Death will prove the falsity or truth of Mahayana. Or maybe this is the influence on Basham of the William James theory of religious experience and revelation as a sort of noetic, passive, transitory, ineffable experience. Does Basham take a position, or is he just making a rhetorical question on trachea? Well, let's think about this a second. What does he say? For heavenly Buddhas do not die. Let's just that little bit there. Remember, this is only Basham describing the emerging Mahayana Trachea doctrine, its assumptions, and he's referring specifically to the Sambhakaya belief that the heavenly Buddhas do not die. Unlike Theravada, where there is a heavenly realm, but it's only metaphorical, and certainly you can leave it. Is Basham right to understand in his understanding the aim of Mahayana as he goes on? The highest stage of self-development. While early Mahayana writer Nagarjuna taught that emptiness was the reality, the highest goal, later Chinese thinkers would, in their sutras, Hu Yang and others, and perhaps in a second sense, in Indian sutras as well, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra as the highest way of development. So there are different ideas, and Basham here isn't clear, I think, on what is the aim of Mahayana Buddhism. So the highest stage of Mahayana development is less a distant goal, more in keeping with perhaps dependent origination and a classical idea of nirvana, but it becomes more and more distant as Mahayana develop. So just to finish with here, this final statement, the heavenly Buddha has ceased to exist for him. An interesting phrase. Following Nagarjuna and the Trachea doctrine, everything is empty. the heavenly realm is empty, and even emptiness is empty. This is the two truth doctrine that is connected with Trichia doctrine. They're both bound together. Even the celestial Sambhakaya realm is an emanation, contrasting the conventional truth and the Dharmakaya truth of the final, ultimate, real truth. So, a key idea that's been coming through here are this Trichia doctrine, and it's the three bodies of the Buddha: the body of essence, the body of bliss, and the transformation body, the truth world, heavenly world, and the earth world. That was section 16.